What is up, YouTube? And today we're going to be talking about the banner that just started today, featuring the character you see on your screen here, Galahad, who is an amazing knight that you definitely are going to want to acquire and put onto your roster. Now, she's going to be running for 2 weeks. We have Neo, Bedivere, and Vivian here for 1 more week. But basically, this character, long story short, is just a must-have. She is amazing just because of how much defensive utility she brings while being super tanky herself and also being able to buff your team's damage. Now, the reason why she's so strong is because she has a lot of defensive utility, right? Her passive, she gives everyone defense percent, which is amazingly strong. She has this ability that can actually have her do a decent amount of AoE damage. Not the best because she's mostly going to be for utility, but it's something. And then we also have her active ability, which will give everyone damage reduction for 8%, which is insane, stacks with the defense buff. And then of course we have her ultimate ability, which is the reason why she is so powerful. She can actually give your entire team damage immunity, which is insane, right? This will make it so that if you're manualing and you're fighting a hard boss, you can actually press this right before a big ability comes out and you'll be damage immune and just take 0 damage, which is insane, right? 5-second duration as well, which is great, and it's only on a 30-second cooldown. Also, the secondary effect of this is also a big reason why Galahad is super good. Usually when you're bringing like a very tanky character in this game and most games, you have to give up damage, but Galahad actually buffs your damage as well, which is the craziest part. She will buff your archers and also your wizards damage, which is going to be insane. And the duration is 20 seconds, right? It's not 5 seconds like the immunity, it's a 20-second buff. So basically, if you have her use her Lightbringer sometime before your DPS wizards and archers use their ultimate ability, they will do a ton more damage, which makes this super strong, especially when you pair her with DPS characters of that class. So basically, you know, she's amazing. She is like a stone wall tank that also buffs your team's tankiness, so if there's AoE damage, they won't really die. And she also makes them do more damage, which is amazing. The only downside is she doesn't have healing at all, so you will have to pair her with the healer. But there's a lot of good healers in this game that you can pair her with, such as Diane, who can also even buff her damage with her ultimate ability. She buffs knights, which makes them a great combo. Even something like a Guinevere, which is great as a free-to-play option if you're new to the game. And even something like Neo Bedivere. So her banner is also running right now, and she is an archer, so she benefits from Galahad's ultimate damage boost. And on top of that, she can actually heal people with her passive, which makes her amazing. And she also covers a weakness that Galahad has. Because Galahad can't really cleanse, she has this ultimate ability, which just got hotfixed, that will give your team immunity to crowd control. So it's an amazing effect. They synergize very well together for this reason. Of course, any other archers or wizards, Tiamat, for example, one of the best damage dealers, if not the best for PvE in the game, gets a huge buff from Galahad as well because she's a wizard. There's other ones that you can use, like Lisa gets buffed, Tristan gets buffed, Merlin gets buffed. Basically, all the top tier damage dealers are usually wizards and archers for the most part, and they will all get buffed. And there's so many different ones in the game, like Morgana even, right? Even bad damage dealers, if your team doesn't have really good damage dealers, just by having Galahad, it'll make them a lot better, which is why she's so strong. She's a defensive menace and an offensive menace at the same time, and you can actually slot her into pretty much any single team comp. Even if you're running the knight team comp, she's fine because she's a knight and she is pretty much unkillable, right? So, you know, you could pair her with Diane and they buff each other, or I guess Diane buffs her Galahad, and in that team comp even, if you run like Lancelot, Galahad, Diane, you can just run a wizard and archer in the backline like I do with Neo Bedivere and Tiamat, and it's kind of like perfect synergy between everyone, which makes her, like I said, just the amazing fit for any single team comp because she'll buff your damage for your damage dealers and also just buff your tankiness and also just stand in the front and just never die. Now, in terms of her Transcendence and her Resonance, so dupes on her are actually very good because she's a tank. The reason why it's so good is because usually in comps with Galahad, right, as soon as she dies, your team just kind of falls over, especially if you're running like squishy carries like Tiamat and also Neo Bedivere. So because of this reason, you definitely want to try to max her out eventually. Whether you want to do it right now on this banner, it's really up to you and how many crystals you want to spend or diamonds you want to spend on her. But it's definitely a good investment because Galahad is so good into the late game as well, and even in PvP, that getting dupes on her and transcending her is going to be a very good investment. Now, in terms of her card, so her card is not the best. It's still very good, don't get me wrong, but it's not the best option. So we have Pride Wind. This is actually going to be her card, and you can see that it gives you HP percent, and it also has an ability that gives your team a defense buff. So it's a decent card, right? It makes your team tankier, it also makes yourself tankier. However, usually there's going to be better options than this for knights. For her, for example, because if she dies, you know, you kind of just lose the battle. A very good like 4-star option for her in the early game is like Holy Sword's Blessing. It gives you less health at level 10, but the biggest thing is the passive. This passive is broken. Basically, when you die, you just prevent death and you get full health, full healed. So yeah, it's pretty much a cheat death. It's amazing. Yeah, for that reason, you know, her card, even though it is decent, I would actually recommend going for dupes over it. Now, if you're lacking a lot of good knight cards that give health, let's say, for example, you want another good health card for your Lancelot, which is actually what I'm doing, then you can actually get her card. It is still decent overall, but just keep in mind it won't be best in slot. I'm going to be replacing this anyways on Lancelot for her card later, but, you know, as a placeholder, it's okay. Whether or not it's going to be worth that Transcendence slot, it's really up to you to judge, but I personally would not actually use it on the card. I kind of regret getting her card. I wish I just Transcendenced her, but since the banner came out, I'm definitely going to be summoning for more dupes and try to max her out because, like I said, very important to get dupes on Galahad as your tank. Just like any tank, you want to get your Transcendence up as much as you can, because if they die, the rest of your team, your healers and your backline will end up just getting slaughtered and the run is over. So yeah, you definitely want at least one copy at the very, very least. She is just amazing even without dupes. Now in terms of her pet, so her pet is also going to be just kind of whatever, honestly. It gives you defense and health, which is great, but the active skill isn't the best thing, right? It's a shield that blocks damage, but it's equal to the caster's health, so, you know, doesn't really do too much, especially on your backline. I don't really recommend getting this because you're not going to really ever be using this for the ability. You would only be using it for the stats, and there's a lot of other pets with decent stat lines as well, so because of that, you know, you're mostly going to be hunting for pets that have really good skills on it. So Galahad's pet, I think, is not the best. It's honestly pretty mid, pretty down there on the tier list, I'd say, but if you want to go for it for some reason, sure, but just keep in mind there's going to be a lot of better pets out there that you will be able to use, right? For example, if you go to like my pet inventory, you know, if I'm looking for a good tank pet option, even something like Guinevere's is going to be better because it can, you know, full cleanse in certain situations. So for that reason, you know, I don't really recommend going for her pet, but her, definitely worth going for. You definitely want at least one copy, like I said, and try to max her out because you will be using her in the early game, in the mid game, in the late game, and in PvP. She is just that amazing because she just buffs all of your damage dealers and just makes your team pretty much unkillable while being unkillable herself. But yeah, that is pretty much it for this video, guys. Thank you for watching. She's a great slot and tank for any team comp. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next video. Peace.